Hello and welcome to the show. For my third and final video from the Goodwood Festival of Speed, I have decided to do a little FailRace Awards show. Everything from my personal favourite cars down to categories like the that wasn't supposed to happen moment. We start though with the performance car park, and my favourite car from this area. A fantastic part of the festival. Basically anyone who turns up with a supercar can, I believe, get themselves parked in this area just by one of the entrances. And there is a huge variety of very, very impressive machinery that makes its way out here. If you like Lamborghinis, you're going to be sorted. There were a lot. There are an awful lot of Lamborghinis. Likewise with the Porsche 911s, plenty of different versions of them. This particular purple one caught my attention. I think I have seen more Aventador SVs than I knew were in existence, quite frankly, here. There were so many Aventadors. This one also being my personal favourite because of, well, FailRace colours, let's face it. Can't go wrong with orange and black combination. Yeah, I saw a lot of SVs around this area, and there were actually quite a few more purple cars than I was expecting to see, which is nice. The Porsche did look very, very nice indeed. Now, one way to quickly catch my attention is with a Jaguar E-Type. There were a few classic cars, perhaps not as many classic cars as I have seen in the past out there, but you can't really go wrong with a Jaguar E-Type whatsoever. In terms of other classic cars, Camaro, yeah, that's a fairly good way to get my attention. Didn't see very many classic muscle cars. Didn't see any Dodge Vipers at all, in fact, over the course of the 4 days. But this was a very, very nice Camaro. Brave leaving the roof down, I'll be honest. Brave leaving the roof down in England. However, did get to have a poke around, and yeah, I do like a nice classic muscle car, and that was one of the very, very few that were around. Sticking with the classic cars, a little Alpine. Now, there were a couple of these in the festival itself. I think there's one up at the rally stage and a road racing one at the kind of paddock area. But to see one that had been driven on the road and so on is very, very nice. Also, you appreciate just how tiny the little Alpine was. This car park is also the only place in existence where you can be busy trying to film a Lancia Delta, because I very much like the Lancia Delta, and end up getting photobombed by a Lamborghini Diablo. There's not many places where you can say that, I'm going to be honest. Yeah, I'm busy minding my own business, and a Diablo SV will come driving past. You know, it's just one of the things that could go on in this car park. I mean, the Diablo is a fantastic vehicle. Went off and found that one. Ended up parking next to a McLaren 675 LT. It's so much variety. You can find pretty much anything that you might be interested in. There will be something that has been driven to the Festival of Speed. There's a Tesla parked next to the Diablo as well, you know. Just because why not? Back to classic cars. Yes, the Aston Martin. I tend to be more drawn towards these classic vehicles simply because of the rarity. You know, there's tons of GTRs and Lamborghinis and Porsches and so on, but there was one of these Aston Martin Vantages. There's another Aventador SV in the background. Yeah, they're just the kind of the exclusivity of them, and I think, you know, they're fantastic looking cars. Sadly, didn't find a V600 again. Last year we found a Vantage V600, but still a lovely classic Vantage. Alfa Romeo 8C. I'm a big fan of the 8C. I apologise. A couple of times my GoPro went a little bit funny. I did the best I could in terms of fixing the footage, but it is a little bit on the washed out side here. But yeah, I think the first time I've seen an Alfa Romeo 8C, I'm a big fan of this car. Unusual to see it in a colour other than red. McLaren SLR in purple and orange is an interesting colour combination. I'm going to be honest on this car. I'm not sure if the body kit looks different. I'm not sure if it's custom or if it's a sort of a special edition of this car or quite what it is. It looked a little bit different to normal. Purple and orange, though, was Surprisingly effective combination on the vehicle. Again, sticking with the purple theme. There's actually I was glad to see lots of variety and interesting colours on these supercars. Audi R8 V10 here, not that far away from the purple Porsche either. Yeah, lots of variety. People being brave with going for some much brighter colours on their supercars at the moment, which is, yeah, it's good to see. Makes it more interesting than a general dull grey affair. Found a rotary buddy. There wasn't a huge amount in the way of kind of high-end tuner cars here. There's more about the actual supercars, but did find a Mazda RX-7, which is, yeah, always nice to see. There was a Nissan Skyline, an R32, no, R33, I think, hanging around one day as well, that I ran out of batteries before I filmed any of it. Lotus Esprit V8, only one of these turning up. Again, good to see the Esprit. Of course, typically I'm the one that's interested in the weird cars. Everybody's flocking towards the McLaren that's parked next to it, but I'm the one there that's fascinated by by the Esprit. They're just nice cars to see around and see a little bit different. But my personal favourite, and you guys won't necessarily agree with me, but it is the Maserati Gibble. Finally, after many years of it being steeped in FailRace lore, it is first chance to actually see a Gibble in person. Yep, forget the other supercars. I wanted to go and see the Maserati Gibble. It was brilliant. It was glorious to see one of these cars. As I said, really anything you could imagine was in that car park. Now, for the next category, one of my personal favourites, the most unusual car that I could try and find here. We start with, yeah, an odd-looking one. The Nissan Blade Glider looks very peculiar. The doors, I'm not quite sure what you even call those sort of doors. An interesting seating arrangement as well, with driver in sort of the middle and then two passenger spaces behind. Not the first time it's been done. It's a couple of sort of weird concept cars that have done it in the past, but certainly interesting nevertheless. The doors are absolutely ginormous. It is an electric vehicle, this one. Very peculiar, very odd-looking car, but it was going up the hill climb, making, well, very little in the way of noise. Sticking with the theme of electric cars, the Renault Zoe eSport was a lot better than I was expecting. I've kind of vaguely seen a couple of pictures, never really paid a huge amount of attention to it, but it was actually a very good-looking car, this one. I was thoroughly impressed with the Zoe. Even more impressive, sadly, I didn't have my camera recording at the time, but they were doing burnouts and wheel spins off the line with this car. There is a serious amount of performance in the little Renault. The classic cars, plenty of your massive classic racing beasts. Some other interesting runs around the place though. The original Morgan Aero three-wheeler and a tiny little MGC. Yeah, you don't quite realise how tiny that MG is, but compared to a lot of the big beasts that were around that area, yeah, diddy little car. To the rally vehicles, yep, that is a Citroen 2CV. I think it was a Baja 2CV. They had a Beetle as well doing the rally course. I didn't get to see them run a couple of times. I tried to record it. That was some of the footage that was lost, sadly, at the rally stage. My camcorder had various issues. I don't quite know why. But, yeah, a bizarre sight seeing the 2CV. Admittedly, nowhere near the fastest. However, you know, we're looking for unusual cars, and certainly a 2CV or a rally car is right up there. There was an Aston Martin Valkyrie. This was more of a sort of display model, not an actual car, sort of a representation of what it is going to end up looking like. And the thing that most interested me about this particular vehicle is how little actual car there is to it. It's quite hard to describe it until you sort of look at the car and study the car very closely, but there is an awful lot of gaps around the place. It's not sort of a conventional car shape. You sort of sit in a tub in the middle, and these sort of fenders are almost add-ons, kind of along the lines of an open wheel car. I managed to get the camera down to see underneath, and it's an interesting design, interesting bodywork going on around this car. Yeah, even though, it's kind of just a display model, if you like, it was still a very interesting car to get to be having a look at. With it being, I think it's 50, 60 years of Fiat 500, they had some very interesting one-off versions. This one, it was really amusing. Every time you were sort of walking through this area, anybody walked past this car, everybody had the same reaction to call it Kermit. So, this is the Kermit Fiat. It's I mean, it's different. It's different. It's distinctive, and that's what you want from an unusual car. The winner, though, for this category has to be from Tamiya. Now, not the first time I've seen sort of full-scale models of remote-control cars. These some famous models from the early years of Tamiya. I thought they were just static display cars. They weren't. Very easy way to get my attention is with life-size remote control cars. Anyway, and next category, the best FailRace car. There was plenty of orange and black vehicles. There was a marked improvement on the orange and black vehicles, which is always good to see. McLaren leading the charge. There were a lot of orange and black McLarens. Happened to find these. I don't know whether they came together, whether they just ended up being parked next to one another. But yeah, if you were looking for an orange and black car, the McLarens were always the first port of call. In fact, there were quite a few that I didn't actually film because I had so many of the same cars. But even they were building a full-size Lego car. And even that was orange and black, so yeah, much approved by me. Not the first time we've seen sort of full-size Lego cars. Porsche have one, and so on. But it was nice to see one being built. Perhaps also not too unsurprisingly, a Lotus Exige. This one actually quite close to a full FailRace livery. It's not just orange with bits of black. We've kind of got ish the right sort of positioning for the back parts around the car. Yeah, it was. It was a nice car to see. Jaguar F-Type. Haven't seen an orange one of these before at all. This one's kind of a matte orange as well. There were a fair few F-Types around the place, but this one by far and away the most distinctive of the lot. No, it hasn't quite got the racing stripes. However, a black roof is pretty close along the way. Next car, I don't actually know what this is. I'm hoping somebody can inform me. Some form of track-based, I imagine, incredibly fast contraption. Again, the orange and black, not quite with stripes, however, definitely getting along the right lines. You can tell it's some sort of track-based monster with not a conventional suspension setup going on right there, although I feel sorry for this poor car. Certainly not going to get much attention when next to it is a very nice LaFerrari. I was about the only one paying any attention to the the little orange race car. Even the manufacturers were getting in on the FailRace stuff. Noble here, and an orange and black M600 again. Can't say I've ever seen an orange one of these before. There's actually an orange Ferrari as well around the place, which was nice to see. GoPro gets a little bit dark around the back of the car, but yeah, still not quite got the stripes. Still not quite got the stripes going on with these vehicles. They did go all out with the orange engine cover. It's a little bit difficult with some of the reflection goings on. Every car is shiny, polished to a perfection as often as possible around here. Even Renault had a decent effort. In fact, one of the most decent efforts at a FailRace car. The Twingo was orange with black stripes. Admittedly, they didn't quite go all the way down the front. They kind of had stripes along the side, they had stripes along the top, didn't quite go all the way down to the front of the car. But, yeah, the little Twingo Sport was very close. However, the victor is going to have to be the Jaguar XE-SV Project 8 because, well, it's orange, it's got black stripes, and not only that, they go the full length of the car and they are even on the right side of the vehicle. It's got a fairly mighty wing, not the biggest wing that you will see, but it's a brilliant looking car. I very much like the Project 8. As far as my favourite sort of super saloon goes, between this and the Alfa Romeo is very tough. I think the Alfa Romeo would just take it, but only just. But yeah, stripes, maybe not quite the right size, but that is as close to a FailRace car as you're probably going to see. And it sounds brilliant. On to our next category, the ultimate jaw-dropper car. Now, it's tough to talk about this category when there are so many truly incredible cars around the place. But these are for the cars that went kind of above and beyond. If you like Ferraris, there were an awful lot there. It was 70 years of Ferrari, and sure enough, there were all sorts of vehicles. This line of, well, near enough priceless cars parked along here. Your various, all of the different 250s were along here, 250 short wheelbase that we've got going on here. The normal, I say the normal, kind of 250 GTO. The car that, when someone says 250, that's the vehicle that I think of. The I guess, yeah, kind of standard GTO. I don't know by all of the slight little variations of the Ferraris. The 250 LM for me of this lot, the particular standout one is I've seen a fair few GTOs, 250 GTOs in various places, various events. Never seen a 250 LM before, and yeah, it's something special about all of these vehicles. The Lancia Ferrari LC2 was another one. I mentioned it briefly in the Almighty Wing video, but I really liked the look of the Lancia LC2. Probably my favourite. It's probably one of the best looking eras of kind of prototype race cars. The Ford that was alongside as well. Similarly, I don't know, something about this sort of style of the prototype cars that is, yeah, very impressive. For me, the Lancia, a little bit more, the Ford kind of I say a fairly generic shape, but yeah, for me, the Lancia combined with the Martini livery was a very impressive vehicle. The Formula 1 cars, the Brabham BMW BT52, kind of the arrow-shaped vehicle. It is a very distinctive, a very unique sort of a car that I think it's actually sort of the cover car for a fair bit around the Festival of Speed this year. It's a it's a brilliant looking Formula 1 car, so very distinctive. Certainly my favourite looking of the lot when you compare it to the other ones. Don't get me wrong, the other cars, not bad looking vehicles, but nothing quite as impressive as the Arrow. Now, they have this sort of show lawn for the concourse competition, and there was one of the early Coinsegs out here, and I have to say, having never seen one of these in person, especially in bright purple, this older CC8S was certainly a real sight to behold. In many ways, I think a little bit better looking than perhaps some of the more modern Coinsegs. An early Maserati Gibble. Yep, this is this is where it all began, if you like. Well, I thought it was. I didn't think it was a Gibble. I thought it was going to be something along the lines of the Merak. But yeah, that is the original Gibble. Not a bad looking car, so I mean you can't go wrong. Let's face it, with classic Italian supercars. But yeah, didn't know that is where the Gibble would start from. More priceless Ferraris. It's incredible how close you can get to these cars. You can wander around vehicles worth more money than I'm ever going to see, I suspect, in my entire life. Of the 250, of the various 250s, the huge number of 250s around the place. The silver GTO here, kind of racing GTO, is a very nice vehicle indeed. It's rare to see them in different colours other than red, and there wasn't, as far as I can remember, any red Ferraris on this lawn area. They all had them in different colours, which was interesting. No, but there's plenty of red Ferraris in the pit lane, but yeah, interesting to see. It was a very tough call, this one, though, for the victor. There were two in particular. The Maserati 3500 GT. I love the side pipes. You can't go wrong with some good side exit exhausts, and this is a very good looking car. It looks a little bit different to the other vehicles around, and I very much like that about it. For me, though, the winner, as I said, it was a tight call, but Aston Martin DB5 shooting brake. I'm a big fan of estate cars, and when you have a shooting brake version of the, well, quite frankly, brilliant DB5, yeah, can't really go wrong with that one. On to the, well, that's not supposed to happen award. Yeah, not everything goes according to plan. My favourite game, or one of my favourite games at the Festival of Speed, is watch the race cars struggle with the turning circle. This is a very narrow area, kind of the holding area to get out onto the track is on the rather narrow side, and, well, race cars don't always have the biggest amount of steering lock. So it's very entertaining to see which cars can make it and which cars are unable to. It's mainly the big GT cars are the ones that will struggle with that corner BMW. is not going to work. Sadly, my GoPro crashed, but one of the Formula 1 cars, the Mercedes, the modern Mercedes, I don't actually know who was driving. I think it was Bottas who was driving it. Had trouble getting around that corner as well. GT3 cars equally struggling with the steering. The Polish GT3 car, I can't pronounce the name, even though I tried. I actually really like this car. It's a really impressive looking vehicle. Went very fast. I highly recommend you go and find the run up on the Goodwood page. Watch the shootout. Massively quick up the hill climb, but almost made the corner. Couldn't quite. The Aston Martin did not get not get the line. Nope, that's not going to be working at all. Yeah, it's something people don't necessarily realise just how limited the steering angle, the steering rack is on these GT cars. Some of them got it fine. The Audi had no issues getting through, and some of the really big prototype cars did make it around. I think it did also depend on how you were positioned in the holding area. This is kind of like the entrance onto the track, but the way they park them up in the holding area, some cars actually have a lot tighter turn to get into this area. It's just the limited space that everyone's working with in this event. But yeah, the Le Mans winning Porsche was almost made it, got very close to making it, but yeah, not quite in that instance. Yeah, always entertaining, sorry, to see which cars can make it around. Now, up at the rally stage, I spotted this Mercedes it was like a little bit different. I mean, there's plenty, you can see the background of the Delta S4, there's plenty of your usual, I say usual rally cars, the vehicles you expect to see going rallying. This Mercedes, perhaps not so much, haven't seen it before here, so yeah, I had a quick little film of it. Unfortunately, that's how it ended its day. I didn't actually see what happened. We were busy wandering through the rally stage, doing some filming, and a red flag goes out, and it didn't get going for a long time. But as we were sort of starting to walk back to the main area, Mercedes had a big crash. That is a poorly looking car over there. I had a go on one of the Gran Turismo sport rigs around the place. I may not have realised how light the brake pedal was on the steering wheel setup that they had here as we go to the first corner at Watkins Glen. Jumped on the brakes, locked everything up, and we go off visiting the scenery. Not my finest moment of driving, I'm going to be honest. And then rejoining the track, I found a huge jump. Got away with it, got back on the track to continue, but not the best bits of driving I have ever done. There were plenty of NASCARs, very good for me. Nice to see so many old and new NASCArs. There's some Euro NASCARs and so on, but didn't quite go so well in the shootout for one of them. Yeah, certainly doesn't help when something in, I think it was the front right, let go and the car stopped turning. Now, the biggest failure of the entire event was my GoPro gimbal. While I was filming the supercar setting off, and you've seen footage from this in the last videos, I was, minding my business, watching the Ferraris go, and there's a Ferrari FXX coming up next. Well, great, this will make for a huge amount of noise. My GoPro had other ideas, and it, for whatever reason, decided to go into inverted mode. Nothing I could do would get it fixed. It just wouldn't go out in this mode. I was wiggling it around, trying to get it to figure itself out. It tried vaguely, stopped working, and it wouldn't move from being in inverted mode. No matter how much I tried, it just didn't want to play ball. At which point I gave up and then proceeded to shoot everything upside down. So almost all of the supercar footage was shot upside down with me doing some extra special guest work going on here. Now, of course, I can rotate the footage, which is what I did, but didn't make life easy for me. That much is very safe to say. The final category, the big one. My personal favourite car of the festival. And of course, this is incredibly difficult because there are countless amazing vehicles. The Zenvo, this is the TSR version of the Zenvo. I'm a big fan of the Zenvo. I think it's a really brilliant car. And, well, the TSR version is even more extreme, even more noise. I imagine much faster. So, yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed seeing this car. It's... what am I, not the fastest, the hypercars, or the crazy high-end supercars, but yeah, I do very much like the Zenvo Jaguar XJ220 LM. I did touch upon this one briefly in the Almighty Wing video. There is something always special, something always spectacular about the big Jaguar race car. Shame I didn't get to see that one going. I don't actually know if it was going up on the course. Alpine I haven't seen before. The A310, I believe. I'm just trying to read the nameplate at the back. Yeah, can't say I've ever seen this particular vehicle around the place before. An interesting wing going on at the back. Is another nice looking car, and it's something a little bit different, and that's kind of what I strive to find. Different rally cars. Well, there was not only an Aston Martin, there was a Ferrari. The 308 was, again, sadly I didn't get to see this car run. I didn't get to see this car going through the rally stage. But anyone who rallies a Ferrari around the dirt and proper off-road course that we have there is very, very brave and very impressive. The Aston Martin, one of the highlights. This very, very close to being my favourite car of the festival. It's just such a me sort of thing to do in many ways. It's essentially a GT4 Aston Martin that has been retrofitted to go off-road. It's the sort of thing that I want to do in games, so the fact that somebody's gone and done it in real life, well done. And that was not being driven slowly either through the rally stage. The noise is incredible. However, my favourite car of the lot is not a Lotus Carlton. Not quite. However, I was very, very lucky. Got to see 3 of them here this year. Two times inside the sort of performance car parking area. There was one also at the Vauxhall stand, which was very cool to see. I do love myself a good Lotus Carlton. They are one of my sort of ultimate dream cars. However, my favourite vehicles, though, sticking with the Carlton theme, this is the Vauxhall Carlton, but not a normal one. This is from a series called Thunder Saloons, which is in itself by far and away the best name for a touring car series ever. This has got a 6-litre V8 in it. It's kind of just another step up the mental tree from the from the Lotus Carlton. It's brilliant, and I love myself touring cars. I love myself crazy cars, and this is just a completely and utterly bonkers touring car. And yeah, my personal favourite car of the event. So, there we go. Many, many amazing cars at the Festival of Speed. I hope you have enjoyed these videos. A big thank you to the organisers for inviting me down, and to the guys that got me access into some of the kind of behind-the-scenes area, some of the bits that you normally cannot. Yeah, there is bits of footage around that might not have made it quite into videos. I'll upload stuff onto Twitter, so keep an eye on that. Just, yeah, to show off as many of the different cars that couldn't quite make it into the various categories that I did in bits and pieces. But a truly fantastic event. I was there for 4 days and I didn't get to see all of it. That's how much there is going on. A big thank you to all of you also for watching, and until next time, goodbye.